In this video, we'll explore research strategies. It will focus in two parts. The first on techniques you can use to utilize our library databases. Second, on how to search the open web effectively. Let's get started. Our library databases have some interesting quirks that do take a little bit of strategic thinking to work with. Here we are on the library homepage. Right here in the center, we have our main search gateway. In this area, you'll be able to access almost all of what the library has to offer you. In our last video, we took a look at our library catalogs, and specifically WorldCat Local. Remember, our library catalog will tell you what books we have, what videos, what CDs, what subscriptions we have, but our library databases are a little different. They are here to provide the actual electronic documents that you're looking for, including ebooks and streaming video, and of course full text articles. To find out the most up-to-date information on your topic, it's usually best to jump into the databases to find out what's most recently published. To start searching our databases, head over here to Articles. We provide a quick search box into EBSCO Full Text, our biggest, fattest database. This particular database covers almost all topics and has articles that are popular and scholarly. But we do have over 100 different databases, each one of them indexing different subjects and providing links to different materials. You can see all of our databases here. But if you want a breakdown of our databases by subject, you can jump over here to Databases by Subject to find those lists. As mentioned earlier, databases can be extremely literal in how they interpret what you type into this search box. As a quick demonstration, I'm going to do a quick search for a basic question: do cigarettes cause cancer? Now, this database has access to millions of articles. How many of them do you think are on this topic? You notice that the database only found one article. I'm sure there are actually a lot more on cigarettes and cancer. The problem is that we have too many words in our search box. So one of the first things you need to do as you begin to research is to identify your key concepts and use them as key words when you're searching. Let's look at an example. Our research question today is, in the United States, do genetically modified crops have a negative impact on the environment? Explain. The main key number one concept that we are really looking into is genetically modified crops. Those are the key words we need to search. But I don't want to know everything about genetically modified crops. I specifically want to know the impact they have on the environment. And not just any particular group of genetically modified crops, but specifically those in the United States. These are the key concepts and key words that really encapsulate what I'm searching for. The rest of these words in the question are really just extra and will hinder you and the databases particularly as you search. Now that I have my key concepts, let's actually get started searching in a database. Today we are going to explore EBSCO Full Text. I'll get started by searching for our main concept, which is genetically modified crops. It's usually best to start off with your main topic that is broad and then narrow your search results as you go. Here we are looking at our search results. This area right here obviously is the search results. Up here at the top we have our search boxes, and on the left we have our search options in which we can narrow down our search. This may look a little like WorldCat Local, which is set up very similarly. One of the first things I want to do as I explore the database is start to play with my language a little. Now, I typed in genetically modified crops, but what if the author is using different terms? I want to check through our search results to see if the authors are using any other terms that I might add to our search box up here. We do see genetically modified crops is used, and we can go through the different titles to see if there are any other variations. We also want to take a look at an article's subjects, as you see listed here, and the abstract. Remember, the abstract is a simple summary of what is inside the articles, and the subjects are the key terms that pinpoint what this article is specifically about. We notice here that genetic engineering in regards to crops is also another way we could say genetically modified crops. I'm going to add that to our search statement. Because our databases are so literal, you want to make sure that you build your keywords using certain command language. You have two basic commands for your search. The first one I'm going to show you is OR. I'm separating genetically modified crops and genetically engineered crops with the word OR. This is our basic first command. So what I'm telling the database in this box is to find for me any article that has genetically modified crops in it or genetically engineered crops. Remember, these are two similar concepts that I am joining together with the word OR. This will broaden my search to include any items that don't fall under genetically modified crops but do under genetically engineered crops. You'll see we now have about 700 more articles that are still relevant to our search. Remember, we do have certain other concepts that we need to add, specifically how genetically modified or genetically engineered crops affect the environment. To add a new concept, you want to use our second command word, which is AND. The database already sets it up for you, so right here in our second search box, I'm going to add environmental impact as our second concept. So you'll notice up here at the top, we have a similar concept, just different variations separated with the word OR, and our second concept added to the search with the word AND. This will narrow our search down more specifically for those items that talk about genetically modified crops and assess their environmental impact. You notice that our search is down to a much more manageable 62 results. Now I want to look at our results to see if they are more or less relevant to our search. Number 1 here, we have proposed definition of environmental damage illustrated by the cases of genetically modified crops and invasive species. Our database tells you right here the type of source you're actually looking at. This is an academic journal, as is this one. But this particular article is a review, slightly different than your standard academic study. Now remember, we do have a third concept. And it's important to explore the different facets that we have here on the left to play with our search, including in this particular database, an option to look at geography. Now I could click here and narrow our search down even further just to the items that come from the United States. At this point, I don't want to do that just yet. I do have the option, though, to look at specific subjects. I can narrow the search down even more by adding a particular concept with one of these subjects. I can also narrow the search down by publication date if I want something more recent. I want to actually start exploring the items we now have access to. Number 1 looked like a pretty good article. You'll notice right here we have access directly to the full text of this item. I click here to get access. Here is this particular article in full text. You do have the option to print or email to yourself or see a citation for this item in most of the standard formats, including MLA, APA, and so on. Let's go back to our results. Now, as we research, we're going to need more than one resource to actually compare and contrast what people are saying. I can go through the results, look at titles and subjects. But, for example, what if I come across something that looks good but we don't have? You'll notice here with number 7, we have a title that looks pretty good, but you'll notice this yellow Get It button. This button is indicating that we don't have the full text of this article in this one database. To get access to the full text of this article, you'll want to check to see if we have it in another one of our databases. Click here to do so. Now on this page, you'll notice we have the option to see full text available in this other database. I can click here to see it. Now this is the full text of the article I was just hunting for. If I scroll through, I can see the full article. Or I can click here for this option to see a full PDF version of the item. If we didn't have this article electronically, this area at the top would be missing. All you would see is a link to our catalog to see if we have a subscription to this item in print, and an option to request this particular article from another library. Remember, you can use interlibrary loan to get any items that we don't have for free. Let's go back to our results. Now remember, if you are doing a search and you actually can't seem to find anything on your topic, before you think about changing your topic, I would suggest coming to the library and chatting with us. Under Get Help, you can find out all the different ways that you can get in contact with a library employee who can help you with your research. You can always call us, visit us, or send us a chat. Now this is just the basics of database searching, but remember you do have other alternatives, specifically searching the open web for articles and scholarly sources. We'll next take a look at one of the easiest sources to use online. Most of you are used to using Google to search the open web for websites, images, videos, and a wealth of other resources. But there are a number of scholarly academic articles that are freely available on the web. We're now going to explore an easy tool that you can use to search for them. Here we are on Google Scholar. This is Google's search engine that you can use to help search for academic scholarly materials, including library materials. First, head to scholar.google.com to access the search engine. Next, when you're at home, you want to make sure that you set up your Scholar preferences to include library material. You can head over here to Scholar Preferences to get started. You'll notice on this page we have a section here for library links. Simply search for Morehead. You notice here we have Morehead State University full text. You want to make sure that this box is checked. You also have the option to include WorldCat items. Remember, WorldCat is our library catalog. Simply search for WorldCat. You want to make sure this option, Open WorldCat Library Search, is checked, and then save your preferences. I'm going to do a basic search for our topic. I've typed in genetically modified crops and environmental impact. Remember, this is very similar to what we typed into the databases. To get started with our search, here we have the results of our simple search for genetically modified crops and environmental impact. I'm not as worried so much about playing with the language here with Google because Google is a little bit easier on our part to search. But we now have to go through a heavier evaluation process. Google does not tell us very much information about the items we're looking at, which is in contrast to our library databases. Remember, our databases will tell you what type of item you're looking at, who the authors are, and will provide all of the citation information for each individual result. Google Scholar, on the other hand, will actually have to hunt for. Looking at our results, we have here at the top, GM crops, the global economic and environmental impact, the first 9 years, 1996 to 2004. We can come over here to this link to find the full text. Before I jump into the contents of the article, I want to look at the context of the article. This particular article is published on the Ag Bio Forum, specifically in the Journal of Agrobiotechnology Management and Economics. I have additional information about the authors, specifically that they come from PG Economics Limited in the UK. If I wanted to know more about the authors, I could easily do a quick Google search to find out if they have any credentials or expertise in this field. It's also good to check up on the authors and the whole website to find out who might be sponsoring this information and are they getting any economic benefit to this article being out there and existing in the world. When you're looking at a website, not only do you look at the top and the bottom of the website to find out more information about who and what might be sponsoring the website, you also want to make sure you go to their About Us pages. Here we have a welcome page and information about their editorial board. It's always good to find out who might be involved and where their sponsorship is coming from. Another thing to look at when you're evaluating a website and determining if it's a scholarly source or not is to look at the URL. You can see here at the top this comes from agbioforum.org. This domain name .org is in reference to some sort of nonprofit organization, which tells us a little bit about what Ag Bio Forum is. You can use this type of clue to help determine if a website is coming from the government, from an educational institution, or from a commercial enterprise. Let's go back to our results. Now I can continue to go through our results to see what we actually have here. Sometimes you'll get a PDF document like this one. If you do end up using this source, be sure to check the website that it comes on, and usually that means clicking over here on the title to find out which website is housing this PDF. Also, some of your links will say just full text, as you notice here. If you click on this option, you'll see that we are actually connected to library material. Here we have the option to view this article in full text through one of the library databases. This particular link would not exist if we earlier hadn't set up our search preferences. So this is how you can do a simple search in Google Scholar. We don't have a lot of options in which we can play with our search apart from playing with the words at the top. We don't have many ways that we can narrow things down as you would in a database using subjects, and so on. Now back on the library homepage, I do want to point out one last source. As you are starting to research and compile your sources, be aware that every time you use them, whether you are quoting directly or paraphrasing an idea or an argument presented in a source, you will need to cite them. Over here on the library's homepage, we do have our Citing Sources guide that you can use to find out when and what to cite. Remember, if you have any questions, please let us know.